Have you ever noticed that quiet, unsettling feeling of being busy all day and still ending the day like you never actually moved forward? Your calendar is full, your notifications never stop, your mind keeps colliding with itself, and somehow you feel tired before your body even has a chance to work. Napoleon Hill warned that this isn't bad luck, and it isn't a lack of talent. It's deeper than that, more dangerous and almost invisible, a mind without command. Because there's a war happening inside you right now. It's not loud, it doesn't bleed, but it decides everything. It's the war between scattered thoughts and a purpose that hasn't taken the throne yet. And most people lose that battle without ever realizing they were fighting. They wake up, grab the phone, absorb noise, opinions, other people's fear, and call that life. But Hill made it clear, if you don't govern your mind will be governed by whatever stimulus shows up next. Picture your mind like a fertile garden. If you don't choose what to plant, weeds grow automatically. Worry, doubt, comparison, anxiety about the future, and guilt about the past. None of that arrives by accident. Those are seeds planted through unconscious repetition. And the longer the chaos stays, the more normal it feels. Confusion turns into identity. Exhaustion turns into personality. Indecision turns into destiny. Hill studied millionaires, leaders, and high performers for years, and he noticed a pattern most people never see. Failure rarely starts outside. It starts when the mind goes to war with itself, when one thought says go and another says wait, when desire exists but direction doesn't. That inner conflict drains your energy, freezes your action, and creates the illusion that the world is against you, when the truth is your mind is simply disorganized. And here's the hard truth that can set you free. You're not lost. You're just living without defined focus. Hill called it mental confusion, the first enemy of success. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's an overload of thoughts with no hierarchy. A mind where everyone speaks at once and nobody leads. Take a breath right now. Watch your thoughts for a few seconds. Do they race, fight for attention, pull you in 5 different directions? That's not you. That's chaos sitting in the seat of command. And Hill said something powerful. The moment you can see the chaos, you're already one step above it. This isn't about motivation. It's about awareness. Because real transformation never begins with external movement. It begins when you admit your mind needs order, not more stimulation. Direction, not more information. The chaos you feel isn't a curse. It's a signal, a quiet call to reclaim your inner world. If this hit you, comment, "I recognize this truth." Napoleon Hill said something most people don't want to admit. Mental confusion isn't the core problem, it's the symptom. Just like pain reveals something hidden in the body, non-stop noise in the mind reveals something deeper, the absence of a clearly defined purpose. When there's no direction, the mind drifts. When there's no center, any stimulus can take the wheel. Be honest with yourself. A confused mind is never empty, it's overloaded. Overloaded with conflicting wants, borrowed desires, and other people's expectations disguised as your own. Hill believed most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they chase too many things at once without committing fully to any of them. And that creates an inner fragmentation that steals your life force. A mind without purpose wakes up reacting. It reacts to headlines, messages, emergencies that aren't even yours. It spends its days putting out emotional fires while calling it progress. But Hill was blunt. Activity is not advancement. You can move all day and still stay stuck in the same place internally. Confusion is born right there. Motion without meaning. Here's what Hill noticed in the most successful people. They think less, but they think better. They don't allow every idea to rent space in their head. They select, they filter, they direct. The average mind accepts everything, fear, doubt, comparison, then wonders why it feels exhausted. That exhaustion isn't physical. It's mental overload with no purpose organizing it. And when you don't consciously choose a central focus for your life, your subconscious chooses one for you, usually the safest, easiest, smallest path. Hill called this being hypnotized by your environment, living by circumstances instead of decisions. And a hypnotized mind stays confused because it never truly knows where it's going. That lack of purpose creates a silent domino effect. First comes indecision, then procrastination, then self-sabotage, then the constant feeling that you're behind in your own life. Not because you're cursed, not because you're incapable, but because you don't have an inner axis strong enough to organize your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions into one direction. Hill taught that purpose doesn't eliminate problems, but it eliminates confusion. When your why becomes clear, your mind begins to align. Useless thoughts lose power. Doubt gets quieter. The energy that used to leak everywhere starts concentrating. And something profound happens. Your mind stops fighting itself. So ask yourself, without performing, without pretending, what do I actually want to build? Not what looks good, not what people expect. What outcome, if you achieved it, would make your mind finally exhale? Hill said the moment you ask that question sincerely, you begin your liberation. If this resonates, comment, "I feel this truth." And if you're ready to keep rewiring your mind for wealth, focus, and purpose, subscribe to Wealth Rewired right now, because the next part is where the shift becomes real. There's a quiet moment, so subtle you might miss it, when life begins to change. Napoleon Hill said it doesn't happen when everything improves on the outside. It happens when something finally organizes on the inside. It's the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and you start declaring, even if only in your own mind, "I am in command now." The shift isn't emotional, it's decisive. It doesn't come from hype, it comes from being exhausted by chaos. It's when your mind, tired of wandering, accepts a center. Hill believed every breakthrough begins the instant you take authority over your thinking. Before that, the mind is like a parliament at war, every thought arguing, every impulse demanding attention. After that, the mind becomes a kingdom with direction. To take the throne of mental command, you have to see something clearly. Thoughts are not facts. Thoughts are instructions in potential. Whatever you repeat, especially with feeling, starts becoming a program. Hill called it autosuggestion. Most people live in negative autosuggestion without realizing it. They repeat fear until fear sounds like truth. They repeat doubt until doubt feels like personality. But the moment you wake up, you can reverse the process, and something breaks inside you right here. The victim story starts losing power. The reflex to react to everything begins to weaken. You realize you don't need to fight chaos all day. You need to replace it with direction. Hill taught that the mind doesn't accept a vacuum. If you try to push negative thoughts out without placing something stronger in their place, they come back louder. The secret isn't resistance. The secret is occupation. This is the turning point. You choose a dominant thought and install it at the center. A thought so clear, so repeated, so loaded with intention that it reorganizes everything else around it. Like a sun holding planets in orbit, a defined purpose pulls emotions, choices, and habits into alignment. And yes, this is where most people feel fear, because taking command of your mind means taking full responsibility for your destiny. No more hiding behind circumstances. No more blaming the timing, the people, the past. Hill said, this is the line between the average person and the achiever. One reacts, the other causes. And causing takes courage, because you stop waiting for permission from the world. When you step into that authority, the noise doesn't vanish overnight, but it starts to quiet. Not because life becomes easy, because now you have a center that doesn't collapse with every stimulus. It's like training a wild animal, not with force, but with consistent leadership. Day by day, your mind learns to obey. And remember this, where there is no vision, people perish. That ancient wisdom mirrors Hill's point perfectly. Without a clear inner vision, the mind scatters. With vision, the mind organizes, and your life follows. If you're ready to take the throne back, comment, "I choose command." Napoleon Hill understood something most people ignore. Your mind doesn't change through good intentions. It changes through rituals. Not mystical rituals in the shallow sense, real practices, repeated daily, that teach your subconscious who's in charge. Hill believed that without a consistent inner discipline, the mind always returns to chaos, because chaos is the default state of an undirected mind. This is where the hidden method becomes practical. Hill practiced what you could call a private mental meeting. Before he allowed the world to invade his awareness, he met with himself first. Silence, full attention, defined direction. That moment wasn't optional. It was sacred, because the first minutes of the day decide the architecture of the hours that follow. Here's the principle. The earliest thoughts you feed your mind shape the rest of your day. If you wake up reacting, your mind spends the day obeying. If you wake up directing, your mind spends the day executing. Hill also knew the mind is most suggestible at the doorways, right as you wake up and right before you fall asleep. Those are the portals where command must be installed. The ritual begins with one pillar, a spoken purpose. Hill would declare his definite chief aim out loud, not as a wish, but as an accepted order. But the repetition wasn't robotic. It was charged with feeling, conviction, and vivid mental imagery. Hill taught that emotion is the seal that makes the subconscious accept an idea as reality. Without emotion, your words stay on the surface. Then came the second pillar, directed silence. Not emptying the mind, observing it. He would close his eyes and allow thoughts to rise without following them. This kind of silence cleans the inner room. Useless ideas lose strength. Tension dissolves. Your mind begins reorganizing around the main focus, almost naturally. In that state, he would ask simple but powerful questions. What is my next step? What is trying to distract me today? What deserves my real attention? Then, silence again. Hill believed the truest answers don't come from mental strain. They come from a deeper intelligence inside you, and even modern science points in the same direction. Quiet reduces cognitive noise and improves clarity. The third pillar is structured visualization. Hill didn't visualize like someone daydreaming. He visualized like someone rehearsing an inevitable reality. He saw himself moving with calm authority, making firm decisions, staying emotionally steady under pressure. That isn't fantasy, it's training. Your nervous system learns what you repeatedly rehearse, and your brain responds to vividly imagined experience almost like it responds to the real thing. Now listen. When you practice this daily, something powerful happens. Your mind starts expecting order. Emotional storms don't hit the same way. Chaotic thinking loses space. You create an internal atmosphere of stability. And inside that stability, clarity stops being something you chase and becomes something you live. Be still and know. That line isn't just spiritual, it's strategic. Stillness reveals command. Stillness restores direction. If you're ready to build this ritual into your life, comment, I align with direction. Napoleon Hill taught something that changes the way you see your negative emotions forever. The mind doesn't waste energy, it misdirects it. Fear, doubt, anxiety, even anger. Those aren't the enemies of success. They're raw forces waiting for leadership. When they receive no direction, they become noise. When they are transmuted, they become power. Hill called this mental transmutation, the ability to take intense emotional energy and redirect it into a definite purpose. Most people try to eliminate uncomfortable emotions. Hill was clear. What you resist persists. What you direct obeys. Clarity is born when you stop fighting your inner weather and start using it. Think about a moment of mental confusion. It's rarely just thoughts. It usually comes with emotion. Worry about the future, fear of failure, pressure to prove yourself, impatience for results. That energy is alive inside you. If you pour it into circular thinking, it turns into exhaustion. If you channel it into a clear decision, it turns into creative momentum. Hill said the difference between a confused mind and a powerful mind isn't emotional intensity. It's the destination of that intensity. High achievers feel deeply, but they don't drown in their feelings. They convert emotion into conscious movement. That's how chaos becomes fuel. Here's where it starts. A conscious pause. When the noise rises, don't react. Stop. Breathe. Notice the emotion without labeling it as a problem. Then ask the question that reorganizes the mind. Where can I direct this energy right now? That single question moves you from victim mode to command mode. Hill believed every intense emotion contains enough energy to create a new outcome, if you immediately attach it to a purpose. That's why he taught immediate substitution. When fear shows up, Replace it with a command of direction. Not denial, not pretending you're fearless. A command. For example, fear says, "What if I fail?" Command says, "Then I learn fast, adjust, and continue." Doubt says, "You're not ready." Command says, "I move with what I know, and I grow on the way." Anxiety says, "You're running out of time." Command says, "I choose the next step with precision right now." Over time, something changes. The noise decreases, not because emotions disappear, but because they gain a job. Doubt becomes strategic thinking. Fear becomes intelligent caution. Anxiety becomes productive urgency. Nothing is wasted. Everything is integrated. This is the moment your mind stops being a battlefield and becomes a power plant. Hill believed real mental power begins when you govern your inner forces with intelligence and purpose. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming directed. And remember what Proverbs teaches: a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. Hill would agree, but the solution isn't shame, it's leadership. If you're ready to turn your emotions into fuel, comment, "I transmute energy into power." Napoleon Hill said something that explains why so many people understand success, but never live it. Human beings don't act according to what they want. They act according to who they believe they are. That's why real change requires more than new ideas. It requires a new mental identity. As long as you see yourself as confused, unstable, or inconsistent, your mind will keep producing choices that match that image. Clarity only lasts when it becomes identity. This is where the work turns deep. When you practice mental command consistently, a new sense of self begins to form. It stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like posture. You begin to experience what Hill called inner authority, a quiet center that doesn't beg for permission, doesn't panic for approval, and doesn't collapse when the mood changes. Inner authority doesn't shout, it doesn't perform, it shows up as invisible discipline. The ability to do what needs to be done even when nobody is watching. Hill believed self-discipline is the bridge between organized thought and a built reality. Without discipline, purpose evaporates. With discipline, purpose becomes physical. And here's how identity is truly built, through repeated proof. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, your subconscious receives a message. I am someone I can trust. Every time you stay focused when distraction pulls at you, your mind records, I am centered. These microacts might look small, but they shape your self-image like water shaping stone. Hill warned that the outside world rarely demands more from you than the image you hold inside. If you see yourself as small, your actions shrink. If you see yourself as disciplined, your choices expand. Identity is the invisible mold of reality. That's why he taught the power of intentional self-talk, speaking to yourself the way a leader speaks to someone being trained. Not harsh, not soft, clear. Say it internally like command, not like wish. I am guided by clarity. My mind responds to my direction. I act with purpose even when I feel uncertainty. These aren't empty affirmations if they're repeated with conviction and backed by behavior. They become instructions your nervous system begins to obey. Hill understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Repetition plus emotion creates belief, and belief shapes action. And when this new identity stabilizes, something shifts emotionally. Fear loses its authority. Doubt stops being the decision maker. Your mind begins moving with precision. You don't have to hype yourself every day. You don't need to negotiate with yourself for hours. Clarity becomes less like a breakthrough and more like a baseline. The world starts noticing too, but not because you announce it. Because your choices become clean. Your yes becomes rare. Your no becomes strong. Your attention becomes protected. You stop being pulled apart by everything and everyone. And there's a spiritual layer here that hits hard. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. That isn't poetry. It's a blueprint. Your inner identity becomes your outer experience. If you feel a new version of you forming, comment, I step into my new identity. Napoleon Hill reached a conclusion that separates people who get inspired from people who transform. The outer world doesn't lead, it responds. When the mind is confused, reality feels chaotic. When the mind aligns, life begins to cooperate. Not because of fantasy, but because of a silent law of cause and effect that starts with organized thought. Hill described this as the integration of the invisible and the visible. A clear mind becomes a channel where intention, emotion, and action move in the same direction. And when they do, you enter what he called harmony, a state where you stop fighting yourself, so you stop fighting life. This is the point where people start talking about luck, coincidences, perfect timing. But Hill was direct. For a disciplined mind, there is no accident. There is expanded perception. You begin noticing opportunities that were always there, but previously filtered out by mental noise. And modern science explains something similar through the reticular activating system, the brain's filter that decides what you recognize as important. When your purpose is defined, your attention becomes selective. Conversations start carrying meaning. Ideas land differently. You hear a sentence, meet a person, see a problem, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, you see a doorway. Not because the world magically changed, but because your inner lens changed. Hill even said the focused mind creates a kind of invisible magnetism. Whether you call it energy, frequency, or simply behavioral alignment, the result is the same. You start moving in ways that attract compatible outcomes. You show up differently, you speak differently, you make decisions faster, you follow through, and people respond to that. Opportunities respond to that. This integration also transforms the emotional relationship you have with reality. You stop treating challenges like personal attacks and start treating them like adjustments. Your faith stops being passive belief and becomes active trust, quiet confidence that as long as you maintain inner command, the outer world will find ways to align. Hill believed the subconscious mind is the channel between you and what he called infinite intelligence, the deeper layer of guidance beyond fear and noise. When that channel is clean, no dominant doubt, no chronic indecision, insights rise. Solutions appear without strain. The right next step becomes obvious. You don't feel like you're forcing life anymore. You feel like you're collaborating with it. And listen, integration doesn't mean your life becomes problem-free. It means your life becomes direction-filled. You still work, you still decide, you still face resistance. But there's flow now. Less wasted energy, fewer inner battles, more precision. Clarity becomes stability, and stability becomes consistent results. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Even if you interpret that spiritually or symbolically, the principle stands. Alignment establishes outcomes. If you feel your mind aligning and your reality responding, comment, "My life responds to my clarity." Napoleon Hill closed his teachings with a truth that separates people who merely understand from people who build. Clarity without action is just a beautiful thought. Real power begins when an organized mind becomes movement. When what you decided internally starts being executed externally, without guarantees, without applause, without perfect conditions. This is the end of the journey and the beginning of your real life. A mind that now holds clarity cannot keep living in hesitation. Hill taught that life responds to the energy of decision, not the illusion of perfection. Waiting for the ideal moment is the most sophisticated way to stay stuck. True command is revealed when you act with what you have, where you are, right now. And that action doesn't look chaotic. It looks simple, focused, repeated. Hill believed massive outcomes are built from small actions done with consistency and faith, not doing everything, doing the essential. Because when the mind is clear, it knows the next step. And that step, even if it seems small, carries an invisible force that begins reorganizing circumstances around you. Here's what changes permanently at this stage. You stop needing daily motivation. Action becomes the natural consequence of identity. You move because that's who you are now. Discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like alignment. Clarity stops being something you search for and becomes something you protect. Hill said the person who governs themselves cannot be dominated by the environment. Criticism loses its grip. Obstacles become adjustments. Fear may still appear, but it no longer decides. You understand a secret most people never apply. You don't need to feel confident to act. Confidence is built after repeated action. You move first, and belief catches up. So close this cycle consciously. Bring to mind what has reorganized inside you. The chaos that became direction, the noise that became focus, the doubt that became decision. This wasn't just a video. This was an inner decree. And the decree is this: my mind is ordered. My purpose is defined. My actions are aligned. And my results are inevitable. Hill believed that when thought, emotion, and action become one, destiny stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you build. Now seal this moment. Like the video, subscribe to Wealth Rewired and turn on notifications, because what you feed your mind next will shape what you become next. And in the comments, write your final decree: my mind is renewed and my breakthrough has begun. Because from this moment on, you didn't just understand, you took command.